So this is Patrice, guys. I met Patrice through Clubhouse. She's very vocal and passionate about the things that she does. She talked about a lot of mental health. There's been club rooms of different topics, and everybody shares their opinion. And she kind of just lets them know what's up. So here we are today, talking, asking a couple questions, get a couple things out to clear the air. So I'd like you to introduce yourself.
So, hello, I am Patrice. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, founder and co-founder of MyBLKMental Health. MyBLKMental Health was founded October 2020, and its mission is to promote self-care, self-love journeys while destigmatizing mental health in the African American and Black community. As Alajah mentioned, I am very vocal in the mental health department, and I like to advocate for those who really can't advocate for themselves. And like I mentioned, I like to, decrease negative stigmas that surround mental health and mental illnesses in the African American community specifically.
Cool. A lot of good stuff. So before we got into the interview, we were talking about your two jobs. Mm-hmm. You want to go a little bit into that?
Yeah, so I do have experience prior to where I'm working now. I do have experience as working as a vocational rehabilitation counselor, where my clients my client's diagnosis was substance abuse and co-occurring mental health illnesses. So that means bipolar, schizophrenia, PTSD, etc. Whatever you think of, they had. And also, I was doing that for a while with adults. I think my oldest client from there, that was adults. So it was from like age 18 to probably my oldest client was, I think he was like 74. And I remember him because he was like, I am 70-some years old. You can't tell me what to do. I'm older than your grand. I'm just like, okay, sir, sorry. But that's that. And then currently I work as a counselor at a wellness center at a college, and I also work as a licensed mental health counselor in a private practice, all working with adults.
Nice. Would you like to work with kids?
Yes, so I would like to work more so with troubled youth. I've done it in the past as an internship when I was younger, and I always had a passion for it. I actually had my minor in criminal justice because I do want to collab with the court system in a way. Like there's a lot of a lot of people who are being convicted, but they have mental health issues. And now, as you know, when you watch TV, everyone is pleading insanity, right? So a lot of kids who really have behavioral issues or mental health illnesses they're just being thrown in jail and not being advocated for. So I would like to be the bridge between the court system, the child, and psychology in a sense, mental health. So eventually, hopefully I get a chance to do that. But I do also like working with adults. But it will be nice to get some experience working with youth, because I feel like that can be stopped. They just sometimes need somebody to listen to them and not their parents, someone that's not biased. So yeah, that is a goal of mine, actually.
That's dope. And you know what? The kids need it to be adults.
Mm-hmm.
Need that person that they could talk to be like the person that they're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So salute you for that.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions for you, and then we'll go off from there. We'll just bounce some ideas off of each other. What is one common myth about your profession field that you want to debunk?
So there are a lot of myths. I'll just go down a list and then I'll just, pinpoint some things. So there is a myth that in order to see a counselor or see a therapist, you have to be weak. You have to be weak and broken. You have to be in a crisis, like things are going horrible for you. You also have to let me think. So yeah, so be weak and broken, be in a crisis, because mental health is really for everyone. And it works best when you're not in a crisis, actually. So it's kind of reversed. Like, um, you know, it's not for those who are crazy. They're deemed crazy when you go see a psychiatrist or mental health professional. Like, no, that's not true. The therapist actually works for you. It's just for you to not come in and get an advice, because that's another myth, that people come and they get advice from the therapist. It's more so a partnership where two people are working together in order to help you heal successfully. So whatever journey you're on is helping you heal, and holding your hand and guiding you and supporting you through life transitions or things that you may encounter, different challenges. And those who are weak and broken, you can come to therapy. Those who are perfectly fine and just want someone to speak to, just want someone to listen to, probably don't want to go straight home to their kids and husband, but just want to sit on someone's chair and just unload about what's going on in their life, it's for you as well. So therapy is for everyone. It's not for any particular person, any particular group, race. It's literally for everyone who needs someone to talk to. And myself as a therapist, I have a therapist. It's helpful. It's I'm able to vent. I'm able to talk about things that frustrate me. I'm able to talk about life transitions from leaving one job to another. There's a lot of things that you can talk about. You can literally, like I said, the therapist work for you. You can literally sit there in the chair and say, you know what, I want to meditate. I want to be quiet. I want to listen to music. I want to just sit here and run away from what's outside. But eventually the therapist is going to support you and say, okay, it's enough of running away. It's time to actually unpack these things. And that's why I mentioned it's an actual partnership. It's not just one person giving advice and the other person listening. It's someone listening, venting, and offering support that's not harmful.
Right. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, it is something that I always try to make sure I tell other people that we need therapists too. We're just like you. So I notice a lot of the times what people say to me is, you don't understand how I'm feeling. Like, you have it all together, or you know these things, you know how to cope with your feelings or whatever. But we go through things just like you, and we have to sit down and process things.
Right.
Well, so I always try to make sure I tell like my coworkers and stuff, make sure you have your own little downtime.
Absolutely.
Like your own little reset. So what did you say on the live? You said something that I was like, ooh, I like that.
Oh, I don't even know.
You said something about a cup.
Oh, yeah. I was saying, as a therapist, it is recommended for us to have our own therapist, because you can't pour from an empty cup. So if we're constantly talking to our clients and they're overwhelming us with their issues, and we're like just taking it in, and having this, being this empath. When you're empath, like you need to have somebody pour into you. You can't just keep pouring out from an empty cup. So yeah, having your own therapist is a time where it's all about you. Whatever you need, you're able to lay it out on the table and have someone listen to you for once. Because I know you probably get this as well, like you just being in the field, like our family and our friends, they come to us. They're not looking for their own therapist, even though we encourage them to. They're like, you're the therapist in the family. Like my mom called me all the time. She's like, I need therapy. Listen to me. I'm like, where's your copay, sis?
Like,
yeah. So yeah, definitely we cannot pour from empty cups. Like we can't just do that. So it's a process. And I didn't have, speaking of, I think that's another topic for another day, about like actually finding therapists. Good therapist. I'm on my third one and I'm satisfied now, but we'll say that, I guess, for another
Oh,
time.
no, we definitely have to get into that for another time because I've never really, for all the trauma and all the things that I've been through in my life, I've kind of learned how to cope. And I guess they're not the healthiest ways, and maybe I could see a therapist. But I think that's something that has feared me, like going to see this random person. I don't know, like, are they even gonna understand my struggles? Like, kind of these things that people worry about us, I'm kind of worried about too. Like,
Absolutely.
I know how it can be because I'm in the field, so I know, like, you know.
Yeah, and I know we're not gonna get too much into this, but and that's another reason why I promote the whole my Black mental health. Like at first I was like, don't want to do my Black mental health because it's gonna stay away from people that is not Black. But you gotta realize sometimes you're not for everybody. So my therapist is a Black woman, and I literally have like the most real conversations with her that I could have never had with a therapist of another race. But we're not going to give you all that right now. We're going to get into that another time. It's a sneak peek.
Definitely have to get into that because that's so valid. And even I don't want to get too much into either, even in our own practices, you see the difference. And you're like, ooh, child, I would never do that. I don't know what you're doing right now. But yeah, so okay, we definitely gonna get into that. So we're gonna get away and go on to the next topic. Why do we feel that mental health is taboo in the Black community?
Yeah, so that is like the $1,000,000 question that's been going constant, right?
Yeah.
And like I always say, that mental health is a hot topic now, although it's still taboo, is more of a hot topic now because of the pandemic, or whatever people call it, the panorama, whatever they want to call it. But yeah, because of the pandemic and COVID, like people are really like talking about mental health, and some people are still not, seeking help. But it is taboo because, like I mentioned, we were talking earlier in a live, like you hear the things of whatever goes in my house stays in my house. You have the things where it's like where I touched up on the boundaries. I spoke about boundaries, and I was saying that in a Black community, you're not taught boundaries. So when you grow up, you don't have boundaries, and that's why relationships fail. That's why friendships fail. That's why we're not good to ourselves. We're not kind to ourselves because we were never taught how to have boundaries, right? Because when we were saying no, we didn't want to do certain things, it was, I'm the adult, I'm the elder, what I say go, and if you don't do it, you're disrespectful, right? So like learning how to have boundaries is just something so simple that other cultures know about and we don't. We're last to know, and that's why things happen the way they do, right? And also religion, as we know, Black people in religion, that is like the number one thing, right? Like religion takes over things, even if it's something of not mental health related, but it's like those are the LGBTQ plus community. Religion goes hand in hand with that. It's like you can't be this because of a certain religion, right? So like having mental illnesses is like you're fine. Like you don't need nobody. You could talk to me. Like go pray about it, and you'll be fine. Go pray. You need to go to church more. And it's like, yes, prayer works, but sometimes there's other things that's needed. There's speaking to someone that's unbiased, helping you uncover things that hurts you. Medication, like right, like everything cannot be fixed with just a therapist. You may need a psychiatrist. You may need to be prescribed medication for various reasons. Also, it's taboo because we normalize a lot of things that's traumatic. So those who have like PTSD, people get shot. It's like people get shot every day, bees, at the quote, like something like that or whatever, right? So it's kind of like, oh, that happened. Oh, so-and-so got killed. And it's just like we go by a day. So now we're so numb with the racial injustice, things of that nature. Like that's traumatic to us. But as Black people, we have to just pick up and go to work the next day. Like nothing even happened, right? Like raise our Black sons knowing that this can be them. Now raise our Black daughters and know that it could be them. So it's a lot of things that makes it taboo, that's also now helping it become more on the forefront.
Yeah, people are seeing it more, so they want to, I guess, help, or it's more of like a social thing. People are talking more about it.
It's the hot topic.
Yeah, it really is.
It's the hot topic.
Why do you feel like it got that way? Because of COVID?
Yeah. I do feel like it blew up because of COVID. Because as I mentioned on live before, when the first time I told someone else that I was seeing a therapist, and she was coming to me for advice, she was like, "You're a therapist. Like, what are you doing seeing a therapist?" And it was like, "Girl, I got problems too, and I got your problems to worry about, right?" So, I think it blew up because of COVID, definitely. But I'm trying to think, prior to that, I wasn't really hearing much about it. Yeah, I wasn't hearing much about it. Yeah, I wasn't hearing. I want to say I wasn't really hearing that much about it. And a lot of times, I think a lot of times people go into therapy. Well, I know the first time I did, I'm telling myself, first time I went into it was because I was like I was trying to help somebody else, but I ended up getting help myself. I'm like, oh, okay, I like this. But yeah, it definitely blew up because of COVID. And I was speaking about before, like, it started off with the self-care aspect, and it's like, oh, self-care, and like facials, going shopping, getting your hair done. But it's like self-care means taking care of yourself from the inside out, right? So, like I mentioned, getting that medication if you need it, or seeing a psychiatrist, or following up on your doctor's appointments, being compliant with your medication. And that's where we get into the whole mental health versus mental illness. Like mental health, I guess we all have mental health. We all need to see a therapist. We all have things to discuss. We all have things going on, like physical health, mental health, wellness, right? But a mental illness is those who've been diagnosed with, like, different disorders. They matter too, so therapy is not just for those type of people that have mental illnesses. It's for those who have mental health, which means all of us. And I'm glad now it's getting so it's becoming a hot topic, and it's becoming more popular because a lot of people are healing. And I think it's all about our generation, honestly, just breaking generational curses, not wanting to repeat the negative patterns or the broken patterns that our grandparents and our parents did. And more young Black people like us getting into the field and like promoting, saying like, this is what I do when you hang with me all the time. Like, it's regular. Like, there's people like us,
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm glad it's getting very popular now. I don't think it's gonna die down at all.
I think it's only up from here, which is good. Actually, one of my friends was telling me that they had read an article that more people are getting diagnosed with ADHD from being in the house because of Corona.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like little things like that, like, check on yourself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you need to go outside and go run outside for a little bit. If you need to pick up that phone and rant for a little bit, like, give yourself that time. This COVID, I know we kind of just got off the topic of it being taboo, but this COVID has enlightened us to so many different things, and I'm glad that it came back to this mental health. Right. And showing people that I have to actually deal with these problems now because there's nowhere to go.
Absolutely, yeah. And just shedding light and bringing awareness to the communities and those around us for things, that is not normal. And I just thought about like the trauma aspect of it again. Like, we're not even going to talk about this, but mass incarceration, like, hello, hi, like that in itself is a whole other conversation. But there's so many broken Black people, broken Black families from just that aspect alone. It's just kind of like,
I started reading Jim Crow maybe like in the summertime. That shit is crazy.
Yeah, I have it sitting right there, collecting dust because it was so heavy.
Yeah, I read it in parts.
Yeah, Maybe I'll make that my goal for this. Yeah, I'm not even going to lie on this thing while we've been recording. One day, but
no, I understand, but it tells you some real stuff, like about the family. It really breaks down, like we think incarcerating these people are helping them, but you're destroying them. You're not that it's destroying them, it's that you're putting them in these places where it's not a rehab.
right.
But
And
anyway.
the recidivism rate is just go out it's off the roof. You dump them in prisons. We all off topic, but we dump them in prison. Not saying a lot of crimes deserve prison time, but like certain things, like small offense, like marijuana, that's not about to be legal. It's just like you dump them into prison, and they come home. They can't get a job because they have felonies and different things. But now we have the Fair Chance Act, where they can get jobs. But
the marijuana thing is a whole nother different thing, because everybody was so against it until they saw how profitable it was. And that's another problem that's wrong with this country. But again, we could go on for days. We'll be up here rambling about these people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so going back to Taboo, I think one of the biggest taboo things that I have wrote down here is like kind of downplaying our feelings. Like, you feel you're crying and you got your mother looking at you like, what is wrong with you? Like, you just slapped me. Of course I'm gonna cry. Like,
he's something to cry about, right?
Yeah, like, or like you just screamed at me for 2 hours, like, duh, I'm crying type of a thing. Or even with men, like, why are you crying?
Yeah. And sorry. Yeah, and just touching on that taboo aspect of it. It's kind of like that's all we see. Like, it's like if that's all you're seeing, you're not surrounded by different people, different cultures, different groups. It's kind of like that's all we know. Right? That's all we know, and that's what makes it taboo. And we again normalize those certain things. And it made me think about what I was saying earlier about why we don't tap into those certain things in the taboo situation again, about the negative things that we see on TV and in movies. It's kind of like all I see is a white man and a lady laying on the couch and him like hypnotizing her something. Is like, what the hell I want to go to therapy for? That's what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah. Like, validating people's feelings is the main thing. It's the start to the solution. Just validate someone's feeling. Let them know I hear you. You are seen, and not, like you said, like smacking her out a kid, like taking your anger out on them. Like, I feel like if it wouldn't be so taboo if our parents and their parents and all the way back, if they would have realized their problems, they would realize their problem and stood back and said, I'm not angry because the child forgot their coat or forgot their coat in the cab or the Uber or whatever. I'm more so angry that I had a long day at work and this is another thing added onto my list. When you realize, you take a step back, that these things have nothing to do with the child but all to do with you. You can have those conversations, like, like you have to remember more things. You can't be so forgetful. Like, that's a conversation. Like, kids remember when you sit down and you get eye level with them and you have these conversations and let them know that they're human. Like, stop scolding them for everything because you're angry, you're bitter. Like, right. Stop. Just stop.
Right. And talking about kids, when we were in live, we were kind of touching on the topic of like the suicide rate on men, but we could go back to that. So somebody had presented the question of she had experienced her child tried to commit suicide, but she didn't understand. She didn't know the balance between being too stern and too soft. Mm-hmm. And I feel like what Patrice just said is that perfect balance of kind of just explaining to them the situation, or you can elaborate because you said your piece on live, but we lost it.
Yeah. But yeah, just, like, just speaking to the child, like I mentioned, like speaking to the child like they were human. There was someone else who chimed in who I think was a survivor of a suicide attempt, and she mentioned like just being compassionate, having compassion, and I personally think like a lot of reassurance. Kids are kids, like they're learning as they grow. Like we can't expect them to know it because at my age, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing. Like this adulting thing is like so ghetto. Would not recommend.
It's like a 0 out of 0. Okay,
Right. Like would not recommend. Don't even have stars for you to even start. But it's kind of like these little humans don't know where to start. All they know is like they just need a lot of reassurance, need to be loved, need to be their feelings are valid. Like, oh, I don't wanna go to Aunt Susie's house because it smells like corn chips. Like, no, you're being rude. You going. Like have this conversation like, I understand that it smells this way, but we need to check on her because she's sick. Or just explain, like, there was nothing ever explained to me personally. Like, it just was like, do what I say as I do it because I'm the adult, And I think we talked a little bit about that earlier when we were saying our younger siblings, like, they get the better end of the stick, which is good. I mean, we went through hell, but, it's good. Like, our parents are starting to realize, okay, mental health is important. Let me not yell at, my mom don't yell at my little brother as much as she used to yell at me, So there is a lot of improvement going on. But when it comes to balance between sternness and being the soft parent, it's like there's no such thing as being a soft parent. It's called loving on your kid, being lovable, letting them know what consequences are without having to be so harsh. Like, bad enough they're gonna go out in the world and be looked at as a monster for being black and being a black man, and now being a black woman. Being black, period, is a crime, right? So you don't want to beat up on them and verbally abuse them, because people get the misconception if they're not hitting on their kids, they're okay. Like, emotional abuse and verbal abuse is the worst. They end up getting into relationships that where they're experiencing the same things, and they're like a victim to this. So it's no such thing as being a soft parent. It's more so being a good parent, being there, doing the best you can. I know parenting is hard. I'm not a parent, so I can't even start to even give advice on that, but just validating the feelings, as you said, and reassurance and speaking to the child, letting them know, explaining things, and not just doing the I said what I said type thing.
Right, which I think is super important. And we have to think that the kids are the seeds of the world. And then they grow up and they turn out to be people like me and you. So what we sow into them, they're going to hold on and grow with forever. Absolutely. And it's like now we have these sad, like as an adult, we have these sad and angry men and women because they don't know how to cope, or they don't understand why they feel why certain things trigger them, I must say.
Properly, effectively communicate.
Right.
Little things like that, yeah.
Right. And that's in anybody. I feel like myself, like a person says one thing to me and it's like red light, like I don't want to talk to you no more or whatever. Which brings me to the next topic of men's suicide rate. I think this is also something that's highly talked about, that I wasn't too knowledgeable about until about 2019, when I like traveled to see one of my friends, and she was like, yeah, like the suicide rate is higher in men than it is in women. And I was so confused. It was like mind blowing to me, because I was like, these women, they're so dramatic. Like, you think like they would move impulsively, like women would be doing this more because they talk about it more, but actually it's the men because they don't have that.
Right. Yeah, and like we kind of like touched on a live, like it would be higher for the men because as I was mentioning, like men are not given the space to be emotionally expressive. Like men have to be the provider, men have to be the protector, men have to be tough. They have to like don't show emotion from when they're younger. A little boy falls. It doesn't matter what age he is. Oh, he a boy, he'll be all right. A girl is like, oh no, sweetie, come here, you little pretty face. You know, it's all of that. Like she gets all the nurturing where the little boy is like, all right, you'll be all right. And they catch up, like they realize that, and they grow up, and it just gets worse and just gets worse. And it's just like, how do I even express emotion? So now that I'm feeling depressed, and they're not gonna call it depression more than likely because we don't do that, you know, like you just sad, you know.
Right.
So, um, you know, losing jobs, divorce, not being able to see their kids, child support, you know, it's like little things we don't even think of that could just be totally triggering to them, you know? And as I was mentioning like that, the suicide rates are higher in men because the suicidal rates, not the attempts, but suicide rates is because men are more final in their I guess I don't want to say technique, but that's the only word that's come to my head right now. But their attempts are final and usually fatal because it's something harsh. Where women tend to, like you mentioned, they are impulsive, but women have more suicidal ideation where they think about it more and they contemplate it more and they have these thoughts more than men. Where men is kind of like when they get to that point, it's almost like no turning back. Um, um, but yeah, like as you know, like there's a whole bunch of different ways to unfortunately attempt suicide, you know. So like I mentioned, men are more final, so it's more so this is where I'm at this point. I'm a lost cause. I done lost everything. That's how they usually, you know, most people think like I done lost anything. Nobody's gonna care. I can't talk to anyone. Where a woman, we can have a glass of wine and be like, girl, guess what happened to me today? This relationship is crazy. This guy did this and I'm just so over him. But a guy going to his homeboy saying like, this girl really got me tripping. Like, you know, she see another guy and it's gonna be like, dude, are you serious? You know how many fishes in the sea there is? Like you know how many fish in the sea? Like you took about one? Are you kidding me? Let's go fishing right now. Like, you know, like they don't even get a chance to be like, you know, talk to their bros without them like man up, you know. They have so many things against them, especially black men. Like, you know, I always have to speak about the black men because, you know, that's like my focus on African American community. But they have so many things stacked against them already. You know, like they're seen as a threat everywhere they go, everywhere they turn. It's like even in relationships, like, you know, in relationships, like they are had to be the provider. If they're not a provider, then they're being talked about or they're being cheated on. Even with relationships with their parents, like their mom, like being a mama's boy or the mom depending on you, and it's like I can't let my mom down, or there's no relationship, so there's anger. So there's always something. It's like we have to be a little bit more sensitive and realize that the men population and black men are fragile. You know, we have to love on them a little bit more and let them know like they can be emotional. You know, a lot of our men and black men, when they having things of this nature like trauma or they're having issues where they can't be emotional, they self-medicate. They go use. You know, that's where substance abuse come in, and that just leads into other mental illnesses, and it's just like a spiral effect, and it just goes downhill from there. But yeah, unfortunately, men usually take um, final routes to get when it comes to suicide attempts. Um, yeah, and women, you know, of course they commit suicide as well, but most of the time it's not as fatal because, of course, as you mentioned with the statistics, men has a higher um, suicide rate in general, which is sad. It's unfortunate, and that makes me think of course, like how kids nowadays are so. I don't even remember knowing about suicide when I was younger. Like these kids nowadays are saying, you know, I'm bullied, and they're just committing suicide. They're looking up things online, and it's just like, this is something like, it's final. So it's just suicide in general is sad. And you know, I've lost people to suicide, and it's just like, a lot of times, and that's something else the girl mentioned on a live. She said, when it comes to suicide attempts, the person that you tell, like, their delivery has to be a certain way to make you feel better. So not us, you know, someone telling me they want to commit suicide, and I'm just saying, like, well, do you know how your mama feels? Do you know how this would feel? Like, what were you thinking? Like, you're scolding a person for feeling the way they felt. Like, imagine how much it took for them to tell you that they felt the lowest, that they didn't want to be alive, that they didn't want to be on earth. Like, not even knowing what's going to happen when they leave this earth. Like, they'd rather face that instead of being here and living life, you know? So just being sensitive, being more aware, thinking more, and just being overall nice. Being overall nice. I'm learning still that some people are more sensitive than others, and you can't fault them for that. You know, like, I was raised where my family play a lot, and they are not sensitive. So I'm going into the world thinking, like, I can say whatever I want to say. Like, nobody's gonna take me serious. When some people have never had that, and all they were was sheltered. So just being mindful all the time, being kind, um, bringing awareness, loving on people, checking in. I have a habit, when I think about somebody, I automatically text them. I've had someone who literally was going through something, and I text them, and they were like, "You never text me." And I'm just like, I literally just thought about you, and I text you, and that meant the world to them. You know, and I constantly check up on people, because you literally never know. And I've lost people to suicide, and each time it hit close, because I either was with that person, like, not too long before that, and or I spoke to that person. It's kind of like I felt something, but didn't really, you know, want to, yeah. But yeah, suicide, heavy topic. It's overwhelming, because you want to save the world, and some people don't want to be saved, and some people cry for help. And, you know, when people cry for help, I like to automatically help, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's deep. That's some real stuff. Do you ever feel like you're over helping because you understand, you see things different?
Yeah. I guess that's why it's difficult dating as a therapist. I've had a situation where I was definitely helping the person more than they want to be helped, and they didn't want to be helped. And again, pouring from an empty cup. Like, I can't. I'm pouring into this other person, and some people do not want to be helped. Never will someone be suicidal, and I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm not helping you because you don't want the help. Like, no, like, I'll do everything in my best interest. I'll do like a suicide assessment to make sure that they're not in any immediate danger. But yeah, I'm learning to find a balance, separating from what I do from, like, my relationships, my friendships, and things of that nature. I offer advice if needed. I help with referrals with different therapists. But I don't want to say I over help, because I know my intentions. I know I come with great intentions. So I'd rather be safe than sorry always, especially if someone is like high risk for something, and I don't feel confident that they have the effective coping skills and tools to get out of the funk. So I'd rather be all over them and over help than to lose someone and have that on my hands, right?
Right. That's some deep, real stuff.
Yeah.
Real stuff. That was a perfect way to wrap everything up.
Yeah.
I feel like we touched everything. Be kind. What we took out of this was to be kind to your counterparts, to your partner, to your friends. If somebody needs to talk, just listen. You don't gotta say too much back either.
Right. Exactly. We think we always have to respond. It's like you can't listen and talk at the same time. Sometimes someone literally just wants you to sit there and shut up. Literally. People think they get uncomfortable with silence.
Yes.
And silence is golden. A lot can happen in silence. You can understand someone in silence. You can read things in silence that you wouldn't be able to do if you were constantly talking. So yeah.
Absolutely.
It was good.
I'm so happy that you came on today. We touched so many different topics.
Yes.
We gotta spin a block.
We do. We definitely do. This was really good. This was helpful. I think we like educated a lot of people that was on our live earlier.
Yes.
So,
oh my God, you guys missed the live. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was really great. So we'll talk offline because this is something that definitely needs to be out there, bringing more awareness and having different conversations. Because it sounds like we could have went forever on different things.
We were literally bouncing everywhere, and I like that because you understand things like how I understand them. So it's good to exchange ideas.
Absolutely.
Things that people really don't want to talk about.
I know, to talk about. But this was super exciting. Thank you, guys, for thinking of me and my Black mental health. Make sure whoever's watching this, make sure you follow us on Facebook and Instagram at MyBLKMental Health, which is MyBLK Mental Health, and on Twitter, MyBLK_MH, and follow us for more things mental health, and just bringing awareness in general. So, yeah.
Thank you for allowing us to have your time to talk about these things, and we will be back.